Terrible.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with them, you know?
That
Yeah.
breaks my heart. And I was just talking with my girlfriend. So mental health, like I definitely, I speak about it. I want to be an advocate for it. Like I know, I got pretty dark, and but a lot of these kids, you're saying, they're told, oh, you have depression or you have anxiety, and they're medicated, medicating. And like at the same time, it's like, how do we, I mean, I found my outlet through, my faith and yoga, really through meditation, my
Yeah.
faith, and like, and being good to myself, and like really like sitting there and like meditating and journaling and writing this stuff out. And like, of course, like some days are better than others. And there was a point, but unfortunately, they finally put me on an antidepressant, and it had the complete opposite effect. And I don't knock it, because it's very sensitive, because people may need to be on medication for, clinical reasons. But I wasn't a clinically depressed person. A person I loved for 10 years left out of nowhere. So I was really hit rock bottom. And then I just diverted to my accident. I just kept going back to the accident. And I never actually dealt with that part. So I just kept going back to the fact I have one hand. Is anyone going to love me ever again? And this guy did, but maybe no one else will. Like, I just went to this terrible place. So I did the medication and it got even worse. They said I'm not a clinically depressed person. It was not good for me at all.
Yeah.
People are just, they just prescribe and numb and just keep, and that's unfortunately that when you're messing with your own like nature, like your own chemistry by putting a pill, then I think
and like you said, with the mental health, like just being that busy is just hiding the trauma you went through, so we don't think about it, and it's great until something else happens. It doesn't have to be a truck, doesn't have to be an accident. It can be the loss of a loved one. It can be someone leaving you. It could be anything. And all of a sudden, it'll just all come back, and it's like,
all of that,
I'm just all at once.
Yeah, it's suffocating. So
and it can hit you. It hits you like the accident. It's the same impact. Someone leaving you is the same impact of what happens, and that's where, unless you're someone who seeks help, or you've got a lot of support around you, like you said, this is where the mental health comes in. Something just hit me then, which is great you didn't change the background, because we're interviewing in about 2 weeks Kevin Hines, who jumped off that bridge behind you and survived. And he's written a book called The Ripple Effect. And he talks about his journey of, like, he basically speaks nearly every day of the year. I met him through a friend of mine who runs a mental health non-profit in Australia. And I said, he'd be the great guy to interview. And his book and his story about jumping off that bridge is just incredible story.
Yeah, and I just want to say for the record, I want to be a mental health advocate myself. I'm actually hoping sometime down the road to write a script for a movie about mental health. And, what I went through a few years back was very tough with depression and all that. And the depression happened during a stage in my life when I was a teenager, and you're going through hormonal changes that you don't know how to manage, and you're going through a wide range of emotions that you don't know how to manage because you've never dealt with them before. I really think that if we want to prevent suicides, which are skyrocketing and all that at the moment, I think if we want to prevent that, high schools need to start offering mental health classes. That's what I think. And I think it needs to be a required class in order to graduate, because mental health is a serious topic.
Right. And it's funny. No, and thank you for that, because it seems to be like the trend. Everyone's talking about mental health, and because growing up, I'm like, I have anxiety right now. I just, but like, no, like when you really have I had panic attacks where I thought the world was coming out from underneath me and my heart was going to explode, like and your body is physically shaking, and it's like, that's something else. Like, I don't know what that, and you can't anticipate it. And it's the scariest thing on the planet. And yeah, when I was going, and this was after the breakup, it was a year ago. And I'm telling you, this is 10 years, a decade. And they say when you go through trauma or you lose a loved one or a parent or something, it can come 10 years later, it can come 2 years later, it can come 15 years later, but I want to write a script called 72 Hours.
Can you say that again, Chauntal? Because it kind of cut out.
What part? Shoot.
I think about just from the relationship part, whether it's 10 years, from there.
Yeah, whether, when you go through a traumatic event, or say you lose a loved one, or you lose a parent. My friend, lost her dad, and she said it was 12 years later that she actually had felt the pain and was in this dark depression because she missed her dad so much. It could come at any point. 2 years later, it can come 10. And so for me, it was 10 years later. But again, Andy had mentioned, it was something that triggered and then it was after, the breakup a year ago, it triggered it. And then I was, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was, I was living, I had just moved. That was it. I was in Santa Monica for 15 years. I moved to Studio City across town. I'm such a beach baby. Lived with my sister.
Yay, Studio City.
And then I'm in this new place. COVID hits, everything shut down. I'm stuck back in my, quarantine in my guest house that I was living in. And then, the breakup, and I'm like, I just, like I said, it was going through the fire, but it was necessary. But on that topic, my sister saw me at a really, really, really bad state, and she was very worried about me. So I actually haven't told anyone this or mentioned this, and I do want to speak about it at some point, but she was worried. So she said, we're going to get you real therapy. I said, well, I want trauma therapy because I've been to therapy. I don't want to talk about the boyfriend. I want to why am I going through these panic attacks? What is happening? I am suffering. I don't know what this is. I need a trauma specialist. Is it an amputee specialist? Is it limb loss? I'm having my dreams were night terrors after night terror after night terror. It was awful. And so she called someone, and they took me away for 72 hours. And it was the scariest, most unreal experience I wouldn't wish upon anyone during COVID. And they pretty much put me in a mental ward. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not crazy. I'm just sad. My boyfriend left me. I'm sad. I have these things coming up, and those 72 hours, but the people I met there, I was literally with schizophrenics, with bipolar, with a guy that was stalking me, and he thought I was his daughter the entire time. This other, they're homeless people, but they had no other bed because it was COVID. So they had to put me on this level. And talk about real scary, mental, illness. I saw for a fact, they were talking to their voices, and their voices were having a fight with each other's voices. It was just a really, really wow. Scary. I saw it. And then that kind of gave me, I was like, okay, I'm not sick. I'm definitely not, sick. I don't belong here. And I had to ask him, you need to put me on another level. I had a bad breakup. I'm depressed. The nurses were like, we're sorry, we're trying, but it was absolutely unreal. I want to write and every character, it was like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. No kidding. Wow. It was unreal.
Did you get any fear there that you wouldn't get out of there?
Absolutely. Because they don't tell you. And you're in these dark rooms. I didn't see daylight for 4 days. And
wow.
But the thing was, it was so inhumane that there's no way a young girl like me needed to be on a level like that. There were co-ed with men running in my room and screaming, and at any, I didn't know if I was going to get raped or murdered at any moment. It was unreal. Wow. Absolutely unreal.
Just curious, was the place you went to an institution, or was it a mental hospital?
It was supposed to be. They were it was like a resort. They just take you away because they were scared. Because I had said they said it was suicidal thought, but I was like, no, after the breakup, I was like, okay, Lord, if you want to take me, like kind of threw it out there. But I think it was also a money thing too. I don't know. But no, there was
Wow.
levels. I was on the highest level, but they had no beds. I should have been on maybe the girls with an eating disorder, or like a bad breakup or whatever. But I was with psychos,
So that's really like we could talk about this for hours, but
that was a
we've run out
lifetime
of time.
moment.
But we'd love to get you back on again at another time, Chauntal. When you're ready, just to share a bit more. And I know what you're saying. It's not about. We're not talking about the people are terrible, the staff at the hospitals. It's just not set up to help people in certain areas. I know people in Melbourne, Australia, where I'm from, and they go. A friend of mine, her sister had to go in there, and they're so inundated with mental health, they just fill them full of pills. Now, don't quote me on that. I'm just going by her story, but it's not a place where she said you get helped. It's just like she said, it was really scary.
They want to keep you there. It's really scary. I mean, the lights are neon lights, and they just kept putting pills and everything. And that's when they gave me the medication, and that's when I was like, I don't need the medication. And then that's when it got really dark for me, and then I threw it all down the toilet. Wow. I don't need any of this, but it was anyway. That's just a part of the story, and I feel like this year has been
Can I ask you a question? Like, just before we finish, what advice do you give to anyone who's just going through something that is like, whatever it is, it could just be COVID. It's all it could be. They've lost a job, or it's lost loved ones, or had a broken relationship, or their finances are gone because of lack of work. And they're all different categories, but they all deal with mental health. So what advice would you give to anyone who really feels they're struggling? Like, we have a big organisation in Australia, and it was created through a landmark program called Self-Expression Leadership. And I'm actually doing the program now, Self-Expression. We create non-profit programs over 3 months. And this particular guy, who sadly has passed away, but in the Self-Expression program, he created Are You OK Day, one of many thousands of these programs around the world. It's the biggest one day of the year in Australia, where everybody, including big celebrities, TV stars, actors, athletes, and the community all get on and they ask people, are you okay? And they say sometimes, I don't know if this is correct, but they're going, it's better to ask someone, are you okay, than go, hey, how are you doing? If you think someone's not well, they say it's better to say, are you okay? How would that have affected you? Like, do people say, oh, you're all right, you're doing okay? Or is it better for them just go, hey, are you okay? And would you answer that question honestly to them then?
That's tricky. It's a tricky expression. Like when my sister, I feel like sometimes when you're in it, you might take offense to it, or, you might come off defensive saying like, yeah, of course. I mean, of course, but like, and it's tricky when it comes to like your emotional pain, mental health, like it's literally, it's all starts like here, but like I was saying, like I was physically like not even okay, but I didn't know how to talk about it. And for me, it's been hard to kind of like just express like I'm in pain. And finally, when it was I'm like, I'm actually in pain. Like my heart hurts. Like I didn't know, but who can I tell? And then it's just like, okay, well, it starts with self-love. You should do this. You should do that. You should do this. I was like, no, I don't know how to get out of this. I'm stuck. So I think that's when professional help, like seeking actual help, which I did. And there was only so much yoga I could do at that time, or there was only, but I think, especially like you said, COVID, or people who are going through this, I feel like we always think like our circumstances, once again, may define us. But for me, and my faith is everything, like my mantra is like, this too shall pass, and there's always light. And we need the dark to see the light. We need the salty to enjoy the sweet, and so as long as I focus on the things that make me feel good. I do the things that make, me come alive. And, I may or may not be an Oscar-winning actress one day. Maybe I will. awesome, but I'm not attached to it, but I'm going to still keep acting because that's what I love to do, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the yoga because it makes me feel good. It's a challenge, but it's going to make me feel good. And I'm going to maybe just spend a day with my dog and go on a hike because and be in nature because it's, you know, I just have to do, I think, and connecting with things that like make you feel alive. And it's hard because some people are like, well, I don't know what that is. I'm like, well, do you enjoy cooking? Do you enjoy, you know, I'm a makeup artist, so when I don't have anything else, I just sit back here and do makeup videos. I don't know who's going to see it, but.
And look, another big thing is creative arts. Like, you know, myself too, I'm an actor and I've been doing that 30 years and now spreading into other areas of helping people who are blind create, you know, one gentleman I'm working with at the moment is wanting to be an author and is an Islamic priest. So we're working on his writing and he's going to university. He's only 21, I think. Doug's an author. Like, he's expressed his pain through that. And whatever it is. And sometimes, well, most of the time we need a community. We need a community of people who understand experience, not someone who just wants to throw drugs at us. And I do understand that drugs are necessary at times.
Absolutely.
Like, we're not saying that, but you've got to be in the right place with the right people so that you're getting the correct help. And unfortunately, in some big cities, they don't have the funding in hospitals to do that. And that's where people get caught and struggle. And in life here, everyone's too busy sometimes to even listen to us or to understand what we're going through. So, look, you know, your story's amazing, and I really think it's very inspirational that you've been very honest, that even though you did do all the things that made you feel better, you still had those moments years later unexpectedly which brought you back again, but then you had to go through something else to get somewhere else, and then now you understand that doing the things you love, whatever it is, helps keep your mind healthy, and when your mind's healthy, it can really help us drive forward past the darkness. So
again, like my ability is not my disability. So like what
that's right.
You do, you know, so if I just focused every day, well, I have this one hand thing and I'm limited to what, to, you know, what can I do? You know, can't just stay focused in that place, because I always said, like in the beginning, I'm like, life could either suck or it could be really awesome. So I'm gonna keep leaning towards the awesome part, because
I'm the same way. I'm all about living my best life. Like, you know, a few years back, I went on a journey to rediscover happiness, and I've realized that if you want to enjoy life, you have to have a sense of humor and have the ability to laugh at virtually.
Yes, Doug, you just nailed it. A sense of humor, because I laugh about it all the time.
You have to laugh at anything except for serious things, but, you know, try to have thick enough skin to be able to laugh at anything, even the mistakes you make, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I love the theory of the hero's journey. Are you guys familiar with the hero's journey?
Yeah.
So that's just always been kind of my, like when I'm in the fire, it's like, you know, it's always about like coming back home. It's like you start, have this trial, and then you're fighting, and then you like, aha moment, and then you come back home. So like that's kind of my work this year, just like sometimes you forget who you are only to remember who you are and come back home, and when you do have that moment, it's miraculous. And that's
I know, it's awesome. I love that. That's a great video. A friend, a coach who was coaching me, said you've got to look at the hero's journey. It's amazing. Look, we've run out of time, but it's so cool, Chauntal. Great story, and very, you know, very vulnerable, very honest and authentic. So, that's what this whole series is all about: is people being able to relate and go, wow, that's exactly where I'm at. And, you know, if they're looking for help in certain areas, like, we're not experts in that, but if they ask us, we may be able to find someone we can direct them to, you know. But I'd just like to thank you again. It was really cool that you came on, and great story.
For doing what you're doing. Like, you speak my language, so thank you so much. This is awesome.
No problem. Thank you, Chauntal, and I'll keep in touch with you if I can get any films off the ground.
I'm always creative.
Sticking his business card in somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Andy is my favorite drill instructor.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
All righty. Followers, I want to thank Andy for being such a great drill instructor. I want to thank Chauntal for appearing on the show, and we'll see you next time on Relentless and Unstoppable.